So we're here to talk about your Sonic Cinema project, Suspiria.
Indeed, very excited about that.
Absolutely. So can you tell us a bit about how that project came into being?
Well, Tayo, who runs Sonic Cinema, is an old friend of mine. And, you know, many times we had had conversations about our mutual love of film and music and where they cross over, and, you know, either films about music or films that are known for having quite iconic soundtracks and stuff. And he started doing Sonic Cinema a while ago, and he kept saying, "Oh, we've got to get you along one day," and but we just couldn't find the right thing to do. And then I think Rob da Bank did a thing where he played his own DJ set over King Kong, which is a mostly silent thing, and it went very well. And he said, "Was there anything you'd like to do in that way, incorporate your DJing or, you know, live music?" And the first thing I thought of was Suspiria, because it had its soundtrack is as loved as the film almost. It's quite integral, but there's also very long pieces of the film where there's not much music and it's atmospheric, but there's still scope to put a slightly different spin on it, you know. And it's a very personal film, and so I wanted it to be something I loved and that was very atmospheric and very visual, so that I could try and attach my own kind of sounds to it, you know what I mean?
And what's the film about for people that don't know?
It's about a girl who goes to study dance in an academy in Germany, and a very old kind of Gothic building, very full of Art Nouveau and sort of deco stuff. Beautiful sets, like the set design and production design is incredible in the film, and strange stuff is happening around the academy and with the girls who study there, and you know, the rumour is that it's run by a witch, an old Greek woman who moved there, you know, in the late 1890s or whatever, and is living somewhere still in the building, and is this sort of matriarch, an old part of a coven. So it's incredibly atmospheric. It's a wicked film. It's
definitely what people would call a cult horror film.
Definitely, yeah, but it's not sort of cult in as much as it's so bad it's good kind of thing. It really, you know, is a touchstone for a lot of people who are not just into movies like that, but also who've made movies like that. It's a sort of bona fide classic, and it's just the fact that it was Italian and so might not have had the same distribution and stuff. I don't think it really got its fair shot, but it's one of those things, obviously, with video and then DVD that people are always discovering. And but it doesn't get screened very often, so this is obviously another opportunity to show it on a big, beautiful screen like they have here, you know, in great surroundings, because that doesn't it doesn't get that much of an airing.
And you said earlier that you've got a bit of a personal connection to the film. When did you first stumble across it?
Well, it's weird. I remember when I was a kid, occasionally I would buy this magazine called Fangoria. And it's not really meant for kids. It's a magazine that was about horror movies, but how they're made. And there was a lot of incredible makeup effects and special effects by all these sort of iconic guys like Dick Smith, Rick Baker. And I was fascinated as a little kid because I'd look at these images and I'd think, I can never see these films, you know. This is astonishing. And, you know, being a little boy, you're into like gory stuff and all of that. And a lot of it was, you know, Michael Myers and monsters and slashers and what have you. But I remember vividly coming across two photos in there that totally stopped me in my tracks, that were astonishing. And I was only about 10 or 11 or something. And one was from Dario Argento's Inferno, which is actually a kind of semi-sequel to Suspiria, of a girl swimming in a fully furnished room that's completely filled with water. Really surreal, bizarre image, and especially in a magazine like that. And then another was of Suspiria, of this scene that happens about 10 minutes in. I won't ruin it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but it's a girl lying on a black and white checkerboard kind of floor, and a window has fallen in onto her, and she's lying there, and it's an amazing shot. It really, once that happens in the film, this scene, anyone who hasn't been paying attention is absolutely nailed to the screen from this point on. And I remember seeing this one photograph and thinking, what is this? This isn't like the other horror movies you see on TV, or this is some other exotic strand. And obviously it wasn't till years later when I was able to actually see the film, and it lived up to the expectations.
And obviously the soundtrack is really integral to creating that tension and providing those scariest moments in horror films. So how are you approaching doing the soundtrack for Suspiria's Sonic Cinema?
Well, the soundtrack, originally by Goblin, who are an Italian band, is very well known and loved in its own right. So some people were a little bit kind of unsure about, you know, removing that. But so I wanted to do something that really does justice to the film, or at least as far as I can do it. And I've done it in the way that you can still watch the film. I've left in the dialogue and stuff like that, so for anyone who hasn't seen it, you can still watch it. But I looked at the film as a whole and the different musical cues, and there's really only kind of 4 pieces of music that it goes back and forth between, and they all, each one is an elevation higher in danger or suspense. And it's quite clever the way they've done it, the way it sort of steps up between these sort of 4 grades. And so I thought that's something I can put in my own music into those scenes, but then there's also some scenes which are totally music free, but there's a space there for some music to be there, because it can alter the scene. Someone can be having a conversation and you can put some quite sort of mild, mellow music underneath, and it makes you feel at ease. You could show the footage of the same conversation and put something moody underneath, and automatically people are on edge, even if what's going on the screen is identical each time. So there's a lot of, I thought there was quite an interesting scope there to insert kind of atmosphere into scenes which at the moment were left bare, you know what I mean? And try and have more pieces of music, and I don't know, I just thought it'd be an interesting experiment, really.
And you're creating most of the music for this soundtrack from scratch, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been writing my own Fake Blood album for the past while. It's just finished now. But in tandem to that, I was doing this other music. Before I even knew this was happening, I was doing a sort of side album, and it just so happened that a lot of it seems to fit really well. And then there's other music I've made in the past, and there's new music I'm making specifically for this. And yeah, it's all my own stuff done from scratch, which no one would have heard before, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I know you're not one for pigeonholing, but obviously this soundtrack is a bit of an alternative to, you know, what you said will be on your Fake Blood album, I'm imagining. So can you tell us a bit about what that might sound like?
Well, you know, the Fake Blood stuff is more for clubs, or it's that sort of tempo, you know, it's 4 to the floor, and it's some of it's more driving stuff. This is very much about atmosphere and about serving the film. So there's no like clubby, you know, there's no dance tunes in there. It's more slower tempos, more about atmosphere and strange sounds, and you know, there are rhythms, there's beats in there, but they're at a different tempo, and they're meant to create a bit more tension. And so it's almost kind of going back to stuff I made originally, like instrumental hip hop stuff with lots of chopped samples and atmospherics and things like that. And it's just great fun to do. It's almost therapeutic to make music like that. I just love it. And to have an outlet like this, to marry something which I love doing but has been on the back burner for a bit, and a film that I love, and to be able to sort of combine the two, and more than 3 people to hear it or see it, touch wood, is an amazing project for me. I'm really excited about it.